Hi guys, welcome to Truth Talkin' Thursday. This is Jim. I'm Jane. We're recording this for the first time this year outside, so that makes me really happy because I like it outside. Not gonna lie,
It's a lovely day in the neighborhood.
really is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear the birds or not, but the birds seem quite content with the whole situation as well.
Yeah.
So, just before we started this recording, Jim and I had a nice long chat again. But actually, we were talking about college kids coming home, and I'm pretty sure there's lots of parents out there. Doesn't matter if you're single parent or part of a couple, that's not the point. There's a big adjustment when your kids come home from school. So Sunday, my son came home after 3 years at college, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on in the future, but for all intents and purposes, we're going to say he's done his college career and he's off to work effective May 1st. And I felt like, I know that I had talked with Jim about this before. I think we had actually maybe even recorded something about it before, but I knew that there was going to be changes and it was going to be difficult. And I don't feel like I've really, there's nothing in my mind in particular that I feel I'm having trouble resolving, because I feel like this is new and there needs to be understanding, and there's three people. There's myself, there's my daughter, and there's my son. And we're all adults, and I'm pretty sure we can figure out how to get along. I'm confident that everything will end up smoothly. But these last couple days have been kind of, just with, I mean, he came home with basically a whole garage full of 3 years of accumulation, right? So plus he's had his bedroom here. So before he came home, I had painted his room, but I didn't put anything back in his room except his bed, because I felt like, he'll need to sort through his things to figure out what he wants. So he comes home Sunday evening and, unloads the U-Haul truck, and then he's got to sort things out. So Jim and I were just kind of talking about, I guess in a way, kind of how to get along as a family, and what kind of adjustments might be there. And I think that, Jim, you in your book, A Man's Work Is Never Done, you mentioned about the male mentality being different than the female mentality, and I feel like I really saw that come out in the last few days.
Yeah.
What would you say would be like the biggest issue that a family could face in that situation? A child, whether male or female, coming home from college.
One of the most important things in any kind of family situation is the relationships that each of the kids have with themselves and with the parents, sort of thing. And you can have all the skills in the world, and you can have all the talents in the world as a parent and all this kind of stuff, but the bottom line is, if you don't establish and reestablish that relationship part that you have with your kids, the rest of it won't matter. And I think a lot of parents try to parent from a book, sort of thing, and it can't work. And that's what Jane's talking about and that's what we were talking about, was reestablishing that sort of understanding, that relationship she has with her kids. It's changed. It's different. And the male, the son coming home, he's been away from home basically for 3 years. I mean, he's been home and then back to school, but this hasn't been his quote unquote sort of permanent residence for a long time. So he has to kind of reestablish himself as a male in this environment here. And there's two females, and not that that's a bad thing, but it's just that I think is one of the biggest challenges of reuniting a family, is making sure that everybody feels like they have value in the family. The relationships are being readjusted to include everybody in the house now.
Jim, can I interrupt you just for 1
Sure.
second and ask you a question? It just occurred to me, is it possible that a male, and I'm going on my experience, so is it possible that my son felt threatened by the relationship between my daughter and I?
I don't think I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask him, but I wouldn't think that he feels threatened. He just needs to reestablish the idea that he's part of the family too, and he's home, and that's that. And
so he needs to make sure that we know that he has a place here too, whether it be a physical place. We had talked about the garage,
Yeah.
kind of the
Yeah.
hangout domain,
Sure.
that Jessica kind of took over when he was gone, and
He's back and he's saying, this is mine again.
he's saying it's partly mine too.
Yes. Well, or it is mine now. This is where I was. I left, went to school. You took it over, and now I'm back, and I'm evicting you, basically. And she's saying,
No, you're not.
no, hold on here, Sparky. That ain't happening. And so oh, yes, it is. No, it's not. And it's that sort of that reestablishing territory, and let's get it back to the way it was. And the thing that I don't think either one of them understand, really, particularly, is that it'll never be the same as it was.
No.
Because they're changed people.
So I have another question for you then. So as parents, how can we facilitate the kids getting along? Because I know for me, I feel, I guess I would say, threatened and put in the middle of them, because I can understand where he's coming from and I can understand where she's coming from, in that I can understand that she's saying, hey, how come I have to give up my spot? Like, why can't we share it? And he's saying, no, this is mine, as you said. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the middle going, well, I'll put masking tape down the middle of the garage. Like, no, not that literally, but how do parents work around that? Like, what, any suggestions do you have?
I think that, this is, if you look at it from a different perspective, this is a wonderful opportunity as a parent to take advantage of one of these teachable moments. This is where you teach the kids to negotiate what it is they need, as opposed to being physically forceful or being disrespectful in some way, or being verbally aggressive in some way. So this is a really great opportunity to teach one of those teachable moment things. This is how you negotiate to get what you want, as opposed to threatening to take what you want.
So how do you negotiate?
I think the one thing is, as you and I had spoken, I think the one thing is parents need to not own the problem between their kids. Get out of it. Get out of that. Get out of the middle. You're not the meat in the sandwich. Get out of the middle, and let them know that this isn't our problem. This isn't my problem to sort. This is a problem between you two folks. Now, I'm feeling like it's my problem because I don't want to listen to it anymore. But and we had talked about your role in this is really to more referee than anything else to solve the problems. If you solve the problems, then there's no point.
Yes.
There's no point in teaching them how to talk and negotiate. You'll sort it out for them, and you'll tell them what it is, and that'll be that, and everybody will get on and live happily ever after. And it doesn't work that way, and you know that, and I know that. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of identifying what the problem is. So what I suggested to Jane was, at that time, was you need to be able to sit down with your kids. For everybody, you need to be able to sit down with the kids. And there's rules for fair fighting. The Marquess of Queensberry rules, sort of thing. You don't hit below the belt, and you don't spit in somebody's eye, and all this kind of stuff. So your job is to kind of outline the rules here. There'll be civility here, and we're not going to raise our voice, and we're not going to threaten, and we're not going to get name call.
And also to remember that we're a family.
Yes.
We love each other. We care about each other. If you keep that at the top of the expectations, it seems likely that the parties involved would be less offended.
And I think the one big thing is that parents need to do is to not get caught up in what the problem is, but rather set the table for solutions to happen. So you're going to have to identify, this is what I said to Jane, this identify what it is. So Jane says, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm hearing right now, and this is how I'm feeling about what I'm hearing and seeing right now. And for Jane to identify what the deal is, what's happening from her perspective. They will hear the message without you having to kind of well, you were a dick because you said this, and you got to stop yelling and screaming at him over it. If you get caught up in the problems, what's happening, then everybody will stay on the problems. Well, it was his fault, or it was her fault, or she hadn't said that, I wouldn't have done that. Well, if you hadn't thrown that flower pot, I wouldn't have kicked the football at you. You got to stay away from that stuff. So be specific about what you're hearing and seeing, and what you hope is going to happen next. Be solution focused in that regard, and I think you'll probably get the people to identify that as a solution, because nobody really, I don't think kids really want to fight.
No.
And you, like you said, your job is to kind of reinforce the idea that you don't have favorites here. I love you both, and we're all a family, and we got to work together for family solutions, and I'm sure we can. We've had before, we will again, but we need to get at it starting now. And
I think that's excellent. I think that is huge. I think that's great advice, Jim, to simply say, don't focus on the problem, focus on the solutions. And I think that's often the best way to handle most situations. And I think that's extremely helpful, hugely helpful. So have a great week, everybody, and happy problem solving.
and thanks for stopping by.